Once you gapped over this level, that was it. It was risk on. Hey everybody, another great trading day. So we still have the window dressing going on as we're seeing in Apple. You're just seeing a lot of consistent buying, even when Zelensky came out at the end of the day and started talking negatively about talks. This hardly moved, and I think that's important to understand. So this was the next line of support. Now it's support, right? 176.76, we're over it. So I don't see any reason why this isn't hitting a new high. I just don't see any reason why we're not going to push for window dressing up to that level. That's not very far to go. No major fund is going to want to show that they don't have a huge stake in it. You're really looking at for a 2% move. That's really it. So for that to happen, I think it's very, very possible. So if you flip this again tomorrow, just like we had this in the top 5 yesterday, just focus on this level. Just look to add, watch how you respond to this level. There's very little resistance that you're going to see right here. Very little. Maybe the 180 might be a mental block, but I think you're just going to push through it. I actually think you could be at new highs by Thursday. The caveat to all this and what we're seeing is really going to be what's going on with the peace talks, and we're going to talk about that at the end. Give you a couple different scenarios, what you could look for in the SOX, the VIX, and the energy sector. And speaking of energy, I do read the comments, so make sure that you do comment on the video. One of the questions that keeps coming up is, would you please focus on some smaller cap names for some people with smaller accounts? Well, I'm hyper focused on energy right now. And one of the reasons is because we've actually sold down a lot on energy names based upon these peace talks. To me, the peace talks aren't going that great. It looks like there was actually an attempt on negotiators' lives on the Ukrainian side with a bunch of people getting sick or possibly dying at the one event. So they moved the event to Turkey where it's safer. And that seemed to not have gone very long. So, let's just lay it out there. If there are peace talks and they do work, this market is going to rally substantially. If they don't work, energy is going to trade up. It's really that simple. And tech's going to sell down. So right here you have a bullish engulfing. I like this pattern. I like how you held the 21-day for those smaller accounts. Just watch this tomorrow. If you flip this and get a higher high, right there is all you need, 482. That's all you're looking for. And just use this 21 as your stop. So you're roughly in there for 40 cents. It's not a crazy trade, and this can easily get over that level. Remember, this stock was an absolute monster back in the day, and you're going to need more supply. These countries are not going to rely. This is obviously rig, it's a driller. These countries are not going to rely on Russia. And there's still a battle going on that we're not even talking about where Russia is still demanding rubles. France came out today and said, we're not doing that. I don't know what Russia does there. So I think energy is grossly oversold here. And we're seeing some selling. We'll get into a couple different names, but I do want to focus on this as well. So I've been watching this pretty closely, and we're going to talk about the 10-year a little bit, but let's just talk about this. This is a nice little base, breaking out of that base, and then a flag. And what you're doing now is you got to 149, which is where you wanted. Zelensky came out and spoke, said he didn't see the talks going that well. We formed this little gravestone up here and then reversed, giving us an evening star at the end of the day. That's not really what I want to see from institutions selling at the end of the day. So that really wasn't appealing to me. So I'm a little apprehensive here, but it's really hard to not look at this and see that there's no resistance till we get to the 152.70. So watch this tomorrow. If we pop over the close of 146.84, that's what I'm going to use to put the trade on. 146.84 is what I'm going to use. I am not going to wait till 149. It's too close to this level. And I will use that 146.84 level. Let me just kind of show you another spot right there is why I'm watching that particular level. Here's the 146.79 level. And you can see how we finally closed over that wick. Wicks are what? Price rejection. I like this. Get through 152, you could push. And we'll talk about the 10-year and how that can affect it. Now, the other side of this is if this does not hold, even though this is setting up nicely here, if this does not hold, this is rallying because of the 10-year, and we'll get into it. But you see this right here? This is where you could reverse. If you were going to reverse and form a hammer in the next day or two, this is where that could happen. So if you're interested in this trade, you could look at it from both sides. I actually have a short position in this right now. But if you are to look at this, if you break this wedge line, you're going to push to the top of this doji bar, right? You have a gravestone right there. You could push to 134 quite easily. if you break this. You saw the moves in these names today, and they can continue. So you're going to have to watch this. If this rolls, this is where it's going to roll. So just watch this. If you can't hold the closing price of yesterday, of today, which is 120.12, you're going to roll, and just keep that in mind. So you could be looking at this either way. I have a short on. I will cover my short in 2 seconds at 122.90 and possibly even flip to a long if I see that. But I'm looking for short-term trades right now. And this is getting tighter and coiling, but this is also where they would break down. So something to consider and something to definitely watch tomorrow. It's also tied to the 10-year that we're going to get in. I was asked a lot in the comments to follow up on this one, so we are going to follow up on it, even though it's not technically a top 5. Look, the pause when they halted this today scared everybody, and that's what shook everybody out. We had a nice trade in this in the trading room off the open. It was a pretty clean trade, frankly. I mean, it really wasn't that hard to see. Once you gapped over this level, that was it. It was risk on, traded up. The first sign of it on a 1 minute and the first lower low on the 1 minute, that was it. Here we are in the trade. This is where the entry was. You can flip, right? And then you just go. And now this reversal bar, the moment that we undercut this, that was it for short-term traders. We just said, hey, get out of the way. It's not going to go. You have a bearish engulfing here. You don't know how this is going to end. If you're just doing it for the short-term trade, you take the $2, $3 and you call it a day. That's what we did. For longer-term players, they stayed in there. I don't see any problem with staying in there, but you have this doji. So nothing's going to change now until this long-legged doji figures out what it's going to do. So in between there, being in options is probably not optimal anymore until this picks a direction. I still think that these could melt up. I still think that trade is very possible. The actual halting scared a lot of people today. Now, LNG. LNG gapped down because of talks. All of a sudden, we were going to be swimming in peace. We are not swimming in peace. So we gapped down, and all we did was trade up all day long. Now, all you have to do is drill into this and see from that gap, here's your 15-minute orb. It was risk on all day, right? This was something we did add in the trading room, but I think this is just getting started. I fully expect this to get back to 150. Look, they're not going to want to buy LNG from Russia. It's becoming very clear. They're going to buy it from the US. This company's going to benefit from that. Now, BPT is one we were trading for a while. You're setting up a wedge line here, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a specific pattern. I'll get into this in the next candlestick video I do. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because we're going to start turning out more educational videos. Also, make sure you subscribe to the newsletter because these private videos that I've been putting out during the day, a lot of people are telling me they're not getting them. So I'm just going to start emailing them per the newsletter. So I'm reformatting the newsletter and it's free. Links in the description. But you see this right here? So flip that tomorrow and it's on, 1397. And I think you could squeeze easily back up to this level. You might even be seeing window dressing on this. But I want to point out what I'm talking about with LNG so you kind of get it. See, when this ran up to 15 and then came back down to 9, everyone's like, oh, it's over. Look, we're in a position at like 1980 and 1981. Okay, the CPI back then was higher than the 10-year. The only other time in history since 81 this has happened is right now. Okay, and commodities went on a tear for 2 years. So these pullbacks to support levels, which the 50-day is institutional buying, are presenting a spot for us. Now you flip this, rally, and go. Very simple trade. All you're doing is up and over. Now, let's just get into the cues. You closed over the 200-day. It's irrefutable. There's very little to say here. There's no real way to say that it didn't do what it was supposed to do, and it rallied. What you need to see now is you need to see this continually to melt up. If you get over that tomorrow, just print TQQ because you're going to wind up running into the window dressing close, which is on Thursday. So just keep that in mind. You're over the 200-day. There's very little to say. You're over the higher high. There's very little to say. The only thing that could really take us down is that these peace talks just blow up literally. Like it gets really, really bad. Now, this is outperforming. Why is this outperforming? This has a clear run to 218. Let me just show you this trade that you could do. So this is something we're already in the newsletter. Again, you would have seen this in the free version. But this gap today, I mean, it's on. And this is the risk. Why? Because of this. Okay, so certain companies benefit greatly on the 10-year. The 10-year finally started selling down today. This is a very negative pattern, meaning that this probably comes in, meaning people are going to buy the 10-year. IWM is small cap names. Small cap names are more tied to the 10-year for borrowing than large cap names. They're more levered on earnings, therefore that's why it moved up greater. Now finally, just focus on this. This level, you broke the 200, you have taken out this lower low. I just need everybody to watch this level, because if we start going higher like we started here, we could see a sell. And this should be your signal. So start watching the VIX for signs that we could be topping. Frankly, the way that we closed, I don't see it. I really am curious how it goes with talks tomorrow, and we get that behind us, can focus on PCE and window dressing on Thursday and go from there. That's all I have. Everybody have a great evening. Trade to win tomorrow.